No, no, I'm okay. You know, I don't need to be faced with that.
Yeah.
Oh,
hi there, pretty bird.
No,
Yeah.
not pretty bird. Not
You know
pretty
what?
bird.
We didn't try
is...
giving it a cracker, so.
That's gonna be a pretty dead in a bit.
Ah! Those things are so much worse.
Yeah.
The greatest. Oh no, the greatest sword miss.
You don't want to get impaled through your throat by a weird tendril thing and to turn into this unholy zombie.
That's a dark part.
It's not really a zombie now I think about it. It's still alive. So. I don't know.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I think.
Would you rather the skeleton centipede?
Yeah, which one? Yeah, you gotta pick one.
I don't want to. They're both horrible.
You gotta pick one.
That's not the question.
If you don't pick one, they both go at you.
I mean, I'd probably rather the skeleton centipede, because at least that one you could kind of reason with it.
And you won't get
sort of, maybe. It spoke back, kind of. I almost became its lab assistant. Quote.
Hey, yeah, I'm just saying.
Quote, experiment, who knows?
It would have been a pretty cool lab assistant, I'm just saying.
In a different universe.
In a different universe.
Some bad shit.
Yeah. Oh.
I think I'm done with my character. Would, like, someone check if I've done it right.
I will audit it right now.
It's probably
okay. Alright, there are some things we gotta tweak, but that's entirely okay, because, new to D&D, new to Roll20. So, first off, we're gonna take a look at the weapons, the attack itself. I've already cracked it open on your sheet, so this is the whole, I guess you call it the algorithm for it. Don't be intimidated by it, because we really only care about the top two, the ones that already have check marks, or top three rather, the ones that already have check marks.
Okay.
So what will inevitably happen, because this is D&D, and D&D is inevitably a game about fighting monsters, is when you make an attack roll, as we have plenty of evidence of people rolling already in the side chat there, we'll be rolling a d20, as is expected for this game, because d20 is a classic die. And depending on the type of weapon and what sort of stats you have, will either be adding your strength or your dex. There are some exceptions to this, but we'll just ignore this right now. So for physical attacks, strength or dex. Your dex and your strength mods are the same, so it doesn't matter too much. There is a case, though, for if it is a ranged weapon, so like your short bow here, you cannot use your strength. You have to use your dex. So we can change that here, just by clicking on STR, change it to dex. And then whatever stat you use for the attack roll, you will also be using for the damage roll. So shooting a bow with strength, there is a bow for that, but that's besides the point. You'll be using your strength for the damage roll as well. For dex, for a more precise shot, it will be dex for damage as well. So dex and dex. Crit range is the number upon which the weapon will crit on when you roll a d20. So we saw in the side chat earlier, 2 people already got some green, which means they rolled a nat 20. Good for them. And what happens when you roll the crit? You do extra damage. For most people, it's just an additional die of damage, and that's where we just gotta punch in the damage and the crit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a short bow, if we look into the PHB in the equipment section, is, if I remember correctly, it's a D6. I'm 95% sure on that. But I'm paranoid, so I'm gonna check anyways.
Short bow.
It is a D6. 1 D6. 1 for the amount of dice, a D6 for the type of die. It will do piercing damage. And this does matter depending on the monsters you guys face. Some are more resilient against certain types of damage than others. I wouldn't try to throw a fireball at the guy who's literally on fire. Probably won't be that effective. I probably won't use cold on the guy that breathes ice at me. Probably won't be that effective. Or you do it anyways, and then you feel really, really foolish afterwards. But that's okay. So yeah. So we have the damage die, which is 1d6. So if you hit, that's always a catch. If you hit, you'll be doing 1d6 plus your dexterity mod. And then you see that, so there's damage, there's dex there, plus 0. That's for any additional modifiers, which may or may not arise as the campaign progresses. Fun times. Type, it's piercing damage. It's good, piercing stuff. Crit. This will be the number that the algorithm will automatically roll if you crit in the first place. So if it's blank, it won't roll anything.
Yeah.
Which is not good, because if you crit, you might as well capitalize off it. For nearly every character in D&D 5e, your crit is just another damage die. There are some exceptions, but again, I won't get into it. Because it's not relevant. So if we can punch in 1d6 again. So that's what the whole thing will look like. Just the top two filled out. Again, we don't need to care about the damage too, because it's not doing any extra types of damage. And there's no saving throws associated with it. So the rest of it's we can ignore. So now, it's different from, say, the dagger and the rapier now, as extra damage stuff. And if I were to click on it, boom, shows up right there. So the roll it shows in the chat is the total roll, not what you rolled on the d20. So if you highlight the 11 with like your cursor, it'll actually show you what exactly everything that went into the roll. So if I highlight the 11 right now, it shows us that you rolled a 6, and then we added 3, which is your dex mod, and 2, which is your proficiency bonus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And then we can repeat this process for all the other weapons. So as a rogue, you're going to be using dex for your dagger, or else you won't be able to have sneak attack. Boom. So that's to activate it, and that's an @1. That's unfortunate, but that's besides the point. So yeah, same deals here. There are certain melee weapons that can use dexterity. These are finesse weapons. Dagger is one of them. If a weapon does not have the finesse property, you have to use your strength with it. But you're a rogue. This is a dagger, so we're going to be using your dex for the attack and the damage. A dagger does not do a d6 of damage like a shortbow would. It does a d4. So for damage, d4, and crit, because it's always going to be the same as the damage, more or less, will also be a d4. And then type. What happens when you stab someone with a dagger? Even though you can absolutely slash at someone with a dagger, the game assumes that you're going to stab them as if it's a shiv. So thusly, it is also piercing damage. And daggers do have the property of thrown, so you actually can fling a dagger.
Okay.
Yeah, so that does give you a bit more tactical versatility. The guy's over there, you're over here, you don't have a fast enough movement speed to get to him. Yeah. You can move and then chuck a dagger. The catch is, of course, the dagger, this isn't a video game, the dagger doesn't instantly come back to you. You have to have multiple daggers if you want to fling multiple daggers. So, that's the dagger figured out. In fact, I'll even punch... so if we look on the equipment section of the PHP, we'll see dagger. Finesse, which is, say, we can use dex with it. Light, which means that if you were to attack on your turn, you can actually attack a second time with your bonus action with it. Pretty nice. So you can sort of get 2 attacks a turn. And then thrown. Range, 20, and 60. So 20, 60. These are range intervals. The 20 denotes the first range interval, and then 20 to 40 is the second range interval, and 60 and beyond is, I call it I guess it's a range interval. When you throw a dagger with a range 20-60, if you're aiming at a target within 20 feet of you, you just attack normally. Because a dagger can fly 20 feet relatively normally. 20 to 60, however, is you're pushing it. You know, it takes a little bit more finesse, a little bit more strength, maybe not strength, but more skill to throw a dagger this far. You would have disadvantage on the attack if the target is 20 to 60 feet away from, or 21 to 60 feet away from you. Which is to say, for advantage and disadvantage, advantageous and disadvantageous rolls, you roll twice. In the case of advantage, we take the better of the two. In the case of disadvantage, we take the worst of the two. So if you're trying to attack someone that's 30 feet away with a dagger, you're going to be rolling twice and taking the worst. And for a rogue, you never proc sneak attack. Sneak attack will never apply if you have disadvantage on the roll in the first place. That's the catch. 60 and beyond, it's an overstatement to call it a range interval, because 60 and beyond, we don't even roll. You just don't hit. Literally impossible. Don't even bother. So for a dagger, 60 feet and beyond, you're not getting that dagger 61 feet. Bows, on the other hand, have a much longer range interval, which we can actually go back to your short bow. Short bows have a range of, let me find it here, 80 and 320. So if you have your bow and you're aiming at someone 70 feet away, you're fine. Because that's what a bow does. It shoots long distance. If you have a short bow and you're trying to snipe someone 600 feet out, yeah, we're not even going to roll for it. You're just not going to hit. It just doesn't have the power for it. And this range interval will change from weapon to weapon, depending on what it is. So a short bow versus a long bow, a bow versus a crossbow, a gun versus a crossbow, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we've done short bow, we've done dagger, we punched in the damage dice for those, and these are the two weapons that have range intervals. Last is the Rapier. Rapier. It is a martial weapon, which the distinction of that doesn't matter tremendously much right now. If we can go deeper into it next week or thereafter. But yeah, a Rapier is like the dagger. It is a finesse weapon, so we can use your dex for it. And then instead of a D4, a Rapier actually does a D8, so bigger damage potentiality. Of course, they can both roll 1, but you know, a Rapier can roll an 8, whereas a dagger never will get close. If you roll an 8 on a D4, you should go gambling. That's all I gotta say to it. It also does piercing damage. Pretty standard thing for these weapons. And as I was saying before, the crit will always be same as the weapon's actual damage. So 1d8 normal damage. If you were to crit, 5% chance, you also do a d8. So that's what this looks like. Magic bonus only comes in if this is a magical weapon, which it is not.
Right.
The mythical +1s and +2s and +3s. That's what those mean. And the magic bonus will apply to both the attack and the damage roll. So there's no need to like double punch things in when you guys get magic weapons. Damage 2 and saving throw and stuff like that, that's not as applicable for physical weapons. You actually can punch in spells in this area, and then they'll have their own little thing there. But for physical weapons, it's pretty cut and dry. And thus, we can close this up. And boom, you have your weapon lineup. So now if we were to hit any of these buttons, say dagger, you got 9. Remember, the 9 is a total, not what you rolled, it's a total. So this was a 4 plus a 3 plus a 2. So math, 9. And yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing, as I'm looking on your sheet, so we figured, so that's your weapons done. That's your attacks. Combat is broken down into 4 basic, or 4 stages, steps. Not in any particular order, though. You have your movement, which we can punch in right here. Speed is determined by what race you are. As a elf, it's 30. As a wood elf, because wood elves are better at moving through places, your speed is actually 35 feet. Oh, that's the wrong button. 35. Meaning you can move 35 feet on your turn. You can never really move when it's not your turn outside of specific spells or effects or other things like that. So yeah, you can move 35 feet. And if we if I were to just drop you guys on here, I'll do it right now. Go to this one. Yeah. Also, get used to architecture blue. This is what I use for the background of my battle maps all the time. It's nice and clean. So yeah, as you can see here, we actually have a ruler in Roll20. This little, at the top left, it looks like sort of like a clock, like a circle with like a line at the top of it, so like a power button. And this is actually a ruler. So 35 feet. Well, that's 45 feet. 35 feet. We'll actually be measuring out how everything is and how it looks and things of that nature. So you can curve, you can zigzag, do whatever you so wish, and so on. So that would be your movements. Oh yeah, here's a great resource. Great resource. Oh, that is... there we go. This is a general reference sheet, which it breaks things down visually as well. So yeah, combat, that was movement. You have a 35-foot movement space as a Wood Elf. You also have a main and a bonus action. A main action is a more focused action. More often than not, people use this to do the attack action, which will change depending on which class you are eventually. Bonus actions are usually based around class abilities. So for a rogue, not at first level, unfortunately, but a rogue at second level has a bunch of different bonus action options.
Okay.
Or if you were to use your dagger, you can actually attack with it as a bonus action. Only the dagger, though, not the rapier, because the dagger has a light property. It's light, it's quick to use, some real duelist shit. Swing with the rapier, cut with the dagger. Classic wombo combo. It depends on the weapon, if it has light or not. So, action, main action, bonus action, stuff like that. There is sort of a half or full other thing, which is to say interacting with stuff in the world. So, pulling down the handle of the door, pulling down the lever that opens the door and stuff like that. That is sort of a free action, which is to say you can do them as long as it makes sense as much as you want within reason. Every round of combat is 6 seconds. So 6 second span. So in 6 second span, you could, in theory, walk up to someone 35 feet away and stab them twice, and then pull a lever and such. Or any other combination of things. It's D&D, magical. So many options. Such little time. So when you start reading spell or effects or things like that say it lasts for 1 minute, that means that's 10 rounds of combat. I've never had any combat go to 10 rounds ever. By 10 rounds, one side is dead. So one side was dead or running away. So if you guys ever get to the mythical 10 round point, that'd be pretty impressive. But more often than not, 1 minute is just a general statement saying this lasts for a combat. So, we have your movement, have your attacks, and such. Next up is your equipment. So, if we go to the rogue section, we can see your starting equipment. Just let me page to it myself. Here we are. So, in the starting equipment, it's just above expertise and underneath all the class features and proficiencies and stuff like that. In the main campaign, you will have to punch in all those proficiencies. So it says, light armor, simple weapons, thieves' tools, and so on. You will have to actually punch those in, which is you can do on the bottom left of the sheet here. So I'll show it to you right now. Thieves' tools in the tool proficiency section. These tools use dexterity, and it'll be pretty important because you would use those to pick locks. Or disarm traps. Another important thing that rogue does. Skill proficiencies, I think you've already figured out. You sort of tick them on. Your background does provide skill proficiencies as well. That means... So, I don't know what Guild Thief is. I'm just gonna label it as criminal, which is to say you would get deception and stealth, I believe.
Yep.
What's up?
Deception and stealth.
Yeah.
Yep. So you note that... So you get deception and stealth from Guild Thief for free. Well, I say for free, for picking it. But you already have it picked as a rogue anyways. This does not double up. So, since you would have gotten deception and stealth from being a guild thief anyways, and you would have gotten 4 skills from being a rogue anyways, you actually get to pick 2 more things from the list of rogue. The rogue skill list. So, acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. Because you picked 4 already, but you would have gotten 2 of them for free anyhow. So, yeah. So, what other 2 skills do you want from that short list? I say short list. That's like 2/3 of the skills. That list of skills. What other 2 things do you want to grab?
Intimidation.
Fair enough. Intimidation. Check that on. And what else?
And persuasion.
Intimidation, persuasion. Okay, the 2 avenues of getting someone to agree with you. And there we go. So you have 6 skills in total.
Sure.
And I believe Elf actually gives 1 as well. Let me double check.
Perception.
Perception? Thank you. And you get perception for free for being an elf.
Normal elf.
Yep, so there you go. So
What else?
you can see... I think... no, elves in general just get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, you can see why people like playing rogue, because you have so many skill proficiencies. Most classes range from 2 or 3. 4 is a rogue exclusive thing. Only rogues get 4, outside of certain other cases. And the other thing about being a first level rogue, so you already saw sneak attack. There's some clausations with sneak attack. The general parameter is if it's a melee attack and you have an ally with you, you do sneak attack. If you're both attacking the same target. If you're using like a ranged weapon, then you have some other things you need to go check on. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Another catch of first level rogue is expertise. So look upon the skills that you have nice blue or red, I guess it depends on your OS, check marks next to. Pick 2 you want to be really, really good at. So acrobatics, deception, intimidation, perception, persuasion, sleight of hand, stealth. Pick 2 that you want to be really good at.
No.
Which one?
Yeah, stealth.
Stealth is 1. What's the other one?
Sleight of hand.
Stealth and sleight of hand. So the sheet will act as an independent thing where we can begin monkeying with it. Don't freak out all this, most of it's irrelevant for our purposes. But one of those things is we can actually turn on expertise on the bottom middle of the sheet. So sleight of hand and stealth. So what expertise means is we double your proficiency bonus for it. So now if we go back to your friend's sheet, you'll see that instead of being 5, they're both 7. So their stats are dex based, so 3. And you're proficient before, so +2, so +5. But now that you're expertised in them, they're 7. 2 doubles 4. So now if I were to hit that magic button, stealth, boom. Rolling a lot of 9s today. 16. Which, same deal as the attack rolls. These will be the total roll outcomes. Getting them out early, yeah. So yeah, same deal. If we highlight the 16, it'll break down all the numbers for us. Yep. So that's your skills. And, right, we're doing equipment. We can see the equipment in the equipment section. No shit. You can pick... So when if it has an A, B, or C quality, you're picking one of them. You don't get all of it. So the first tally, I guess, the first check. Rapier or short sword. A rapier has a higher die, but a short sword has light properties to it. So are you imagining a sort of, I guess, like a duelist rogue, or do you imagine like a two-hand weapon, or two-weapon rogue? For yourself.
Yeah,
You want to be Princess Bride, or do you want to be Prison Ship style?
Princess Bride.
Which one?
Princess Bride.
Alright, then that would be the rapier.
Yeah.
And you see in the bottom middle of your sheet, this is your equipment section. So we can start adding in items here. So here, I'll put, a bucket of tea. I'll put a gun. I'll put Garth in there too. And so these are just...
Why did I get volunteered here?
I don't know, it just came to mind. So yeah, you can name these any which way you want, as evidenced by the fact that I literally put Garth in there. And then, so the left number is the amount that you have. And then the empty space on the... ignore that. Ignore that. Too many... The empty space on the right is the weight. the sheet will automatically multiply everything out for you. So if I were to say a bucket of tea is 5 pounds, okay, you see now, bottom there, total weight 5. Now if I were to change it to 20 buckets of tea, mathematically 20 times 5 is 100. The sheet will automatically calculate out for you. So this is where you'll punch in everything, from packs to armor, and so on. Give that extra. So yeah, so you picked a rapier, and we'll punch in the weight later. Next is your choice. Do you want a short sword? So you can see where the build is showing itself here. You could have gotten 2 short swords. Or do you want a short bow? I think I already know what you're picking. A short bow and arrows, more importantly.
Yeah, short bow and arrows.
Short bow, and then it gives you a quiver. That's right, the quiver is its own thing. And then arrows. And then you get 20 of those. So it shows 20 arrows right there. The next one is the bit more complicated one. Burglar, Dungeoneer, or Explorers pack. These packs have a list of contents, which is in the book, and it breaks it down to like I want to say a dozen things per pack, roughly. Depends on the pack. But the packs themselves are pretty self-explanatory. Do you want a pack that's meant for burglary, a pack that's meant for going through dungeons, or a pack that's meant for exploring around the world?
Maybe dungeons?
The dungeon one?
Yeah.
Alright. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah? I would say if you're able to, I would say try to grab like a different, or not right now, but like in the future, like a different mic or something, because I feel like that will be a major bottleneck if we leave it unchecked.
Right, yeah. I'm planning to get a new one, like, this week.
Mm-hmm. So you actually could find the contents of the packs in the equipment section. I have the physical book here on the bottom right on the page. It's 151. I don't know how 5e tools is, but you could just go to the equipment section. I'm like 95% certain that it's there as well. So for a Dungeoneers pack, I'm not going to make you punch this in for the one shot, but the main campaign, you guys will have to. But just know in the back of your mind that a Dungeoneer pack includes a backpack to carry everything in, a crowbar to break into places. Yeah, that's right, dungeons have places that need to be broken into. A hammer as well as pittance. Good for climbing or keeping doors shut. Torches, because you guys don't have dark vision and you guys probably want to be able to see in the dark. A tinderbox for lighting fires, as well as lighting your torches. 10 days worth of rations so you don't starve in a dungeon. And a water skin so you can bring water into a dungeon. As well as 50 feet of hempen rope. Everyone needs rope. For whatever debaucherous reasons you want. And what the fuck am I looking at?
Everyone on Twitter thinks
the hell is that?
What is that?
They just stuck all the arrows in their bun.
Oh, I thought it was a weird
They look like
perspective
they're-
thing for a
they-
minute.
This is what it looks like in Minecraft when you get shot at with arrows. So yeah.
Okay,
I
sorry
mean,
to
some
distract for a
people
second,
have
I
been
just thought it was
crowned
interesting.
something.
Yep.
So, getting back to Dorky, we can add the Dungeoneers pack. I don't know exactly how much it weighs, it doesn't tell us here, but I think 40 pounds or so is about right. Your strength is determinant of how much you can carry, as well as push stuff or carry other people and stuff like that. I don't worry too much about it in my games, but it might come up. Ever so slightly. So, that's the Dungeoneers pack. So, if we go back to the rogue equipment section, we only have one last thing to do, or to provide. And, in fact, you don't even get to pick it. You don't even get to pick it.
Is it because of my plus?
No, it's not because you're plus. These are just gear. This is just gear that every rogue gets.
Okay.
So, you get leather armor. You know, so you don't die. You get 2 daggers. So you get 2 daggers. And you get a set of thieves' tools. It would be a rather poor rogue that cannot break into places. Quite literally a poor rogue, now I think about it. So, we have your items here. We have their general quantities. Now all that's left is punch in their weight. How much does all this weigh? the answer to all of that. Also, I realize this should be 11 plus dex, not 12. We'll get to that in a sec.
Question.
But we can find the answer to how much everything weighs in the equipment section. They're all on all those lovely tables. We can see their weight. So for a rapier, we can just see it right here. A rapier is 2 pounds. Not too heavy. A short bow, also 2 pounds. I'm noticing a trend here. A quiver is in the... So there's a weapon section, an armor section, and a general equipment section. We can find the quiver and the arrows and everything else in that general equipment section. So a quiver weighs 1 pound. A singular arrow... We gotta do some math here. A singular arrow weighs 0.05. Because the sheet, again, as I said before, it will automatically multiply everything. So don't do the mistake of you see the thing in... You see arrows in the gear section, and it says 1. But you note that there's arrows parentheses 20. So each arrow doesn't weigh 1 pound. That would be a really shitty arrow if it all weighed 1 pound.
Right.
Yeah, so we will divide 1 by 20 and math 0.05, and the sheet will automatically calculate. Leather armor is in the armor section, which is before all the weapons and the gear. I believe leather armor, off the top of my head, weighs 10. It does. Hey, remember
Yep.
10 pounds for leather armor. Each dagger is a singular pound. She will automatically multiply 2 times 1. Math. And then thieves' tools. Tools have their own section as well, after all the general equipment. So a set of thieves' tools weighs a mere pound, which means that it is good to smuggle with. And as some people are doing right there, last but certainly not least is we will roll for your starting amount of wealth. This is found on a handy dandy little table. A lot of tables in the equipment section. At the front of the equipment section, and your starting wealth is determined by your class. So a monk will always be broke, because monks are broke people. Literally no one else could be poorer than a monk, I think. So, and this will be good to use for, or good reference, rather. Can't spell peace right there. Peace. Of what to do for Roll20. So there will be times where I tell you guys to roll blank. And you already seen the command for how to roll stuff, this /roll deal. So if I were to tell you guys to roll D100, and yes, I do tell you guys to roll D100s at times, it will be /roll 1, because it's only 1 die, D100. And then it'll look like that's a pretty good roll for D100. In the case for us rolling your starting money, I want you to do that /roll command, give it a space, so it has to have a space or else it'll mess with the command. /roll 4d4. And then this will roll 4 d4 dice on this virtual tabletop. Up, you gotta do d4. If you just do 4, okay, that's 1, but we need to do 4d4, not just a d4. So it'll look like 4d4.
There's a wee auto roll at the top if you want to use that instead too.
There is auto roll at the top, although I encourage you guys to learn how Roll20 works, just so you guys have a general idea of it.